Greetings. I was not prepared. I pressed live and was like, what do I say? Greetings, everyone.
You say,
You're right. I'm Phaedra, and I'm here with,
Ema Precious, peace.
and it is Shema, Shema Anu, and we are closing out this Yom Shishi to prepare to open our Shabbat in a few hours. So we give thanks to everyone who is here in the space and communing with us, deliberating with us during this time. Peace, Ahod Munira. How are you doing? Peace, Des, Shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, as always, I will open the space giving thanks to Yah, the creator, the knower and doer of all things. Also, giving thanks to Chief Yuya for allowing us this platform to share our deliberations and understandings with you all. We also welcome for you to share your deliberations in an exchange, reciprocity. That's what it's all about. So we are beginning. I'm sorry, we're not beginning. We're continuing the conversation.
Yes.
Guess what? We're still in family because it's important. We are in family and court. So before we go any further, Ema Precious, will you read us the preface, please?
It is my pleasure. And before I do, I just want to remind everyone in the chat that there is a 20-second delay. So just give us we'll give you all a little bit of time after after you type anything, after we pose a question. Can't remember how the delay works. So the preface states, this book is not to be read only once. Read the words of this book of knowledge and wisdom out loud. Discuss the convictions of this work with your Anu brothers and sisters. Share this information with your people. This publication should be read daily. We should be reading this publication or a portion of it daily. Every line in this book can be taken out of context and studied on the strength of its own potential. The truth is to be deliberated.
Yes. Say it one more time. People in the back.
The truth is to be deliberated. Give thanks.
Give thanks. Give thanks. Give thanks. So I'm gonna head over to the chat really quick. Peace, Sister Kashia, Ahot Kashia. I'm so tongue-tied today. I'm so sorry. Ahi Antonio, Aki Ipako. Is that okay? I think that's somebody we know. Is that you, Brother Cruz? Peace, Brother Cruz, if that's you. Ipako, Bahamas. Peace, Savanese, and peace, Naya. Maybe, right?
And I was wondering who that was. It must be.
If not, give thanks for joining this. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, I don't know.
It's only been, but how many months?
Right. So bad. So horrible. So, like I said, so we are still in the section on family, and then underneath family, we are in the area of courtship. And in courtship, we're talking about communication. So last strong, the brothers talked about, so it was previously on Shema Anu, the brothers talked about communication and the importance of, taming those communication of amorous feelings toward one another and, not letting anything cloud your judgment. So we are now at the conclusion of communication, and we are going to be talking about favors, gifts, and having a daily agenda, because that also falls in line with making sure that nothing is clouding judgment, and that can be a true and free courtship where the two people are in a period of discovery, getting to know one another without having things sway them. And we'll get into that. So Ema Precious, would you do us the pleasure of reading? We are this is the conclusion, so we are taking the last two paragraphs. If you are following along in your copy, we are taking the last two paragraphs under communication, under courtship. So, Ima Precious, take it away.
Absolutely. Do not provide favors or gifts to your courtship partner. If you offer gifts to your courtship partner, you can begin to sway the perspective of the person. If you begin to function as two who are already in union together, you will adulterate the process. For example, women should not prepare needed meals for men, and men should not be organizing finances of the woman in question. Have a daily agenda. The daily outline should be decreed by the man in the courtship. The man is the conductor of the courtship experience. If a man cannot properly schedule and organize a courtship, he is unfit to head a household. With an agenda, the communication will be focused. Did I miss something? Oh, will be focused on. I forgot the on for some reason. Okay.
So let me I'm gonna start with the first two because these are two sections. So we're gonna take these a little bit like two at a time. We're gonna double up. Double up. No, that song is level up. My bad. Well, let's double up tonight. So we're gonna double up.
And I was dancing along, but I was thinking level up at two.
We're gonna like this.
We got too goofy. That's the problem. And we both dancing to it and singing level up.
I know.
Wrong.
It's a thing.
All right. So do not provide favors. Let's see what you got.
Yes. And so I'm gonna read this and actually have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So do not provide favors or gifts to your courtship partner. If you offer gifts to your courtship partner, you can begin to sway the perspective of the other person. So that makes me think about this Instagram. It was something on one of these social media feeds. I don't know which one it was. So I actually take that back. I won't say it. It wasn't the one that starts with I. Honestly, I don't remember. But it was like a voiceover. So it might be the one that starts with a T. So there's a woman kind of in the kitchen, like messing around with pots and pans, but there's like no food or anything anywhere. And the video is being shot. Clearly, it's obvious it's being shot by the man, and the way that they're talking to one another, the way that he's talking to her, you can see that they're in some sort of relationship. And I say relationship because we're talking about the secular world. These are not anu individuals. And right, remix. And he's like, for real, you didn't make me no food. You didn't make me no food, for real, ain't no food. And she turns around and she says, did you make me your wife? And I was just like, oh my goodness. And I'm gonna be honest, like years ago, I would have been like, you know, like you know, yeah. But then I remembered something, right? Then I remembered something about like a cow and milking a cow and freebies, right? So if any of you know about that statement or however that goes, you could put it in the chat. And I was just like, well, you know, hey, you know, and so it really speaks to like the favors. And it's and another sentence that Ima Precious just read in the text. You know, other examples of like favors and gifts. You know, how many times have we heard women talk about like, well, he paid my bills, right? And what can you pay my bills? Can you pay my telephone bills? Can you pay my automobiles? If you did, maybe we could chill. I don't. Okay, that's it. So
you got the whole, I'm gonna listen to this. You got right. The whole song.
Like that's like gifts and favors, right? Because why are you doing things that a mate would do, someone that you're married to would do? That's not anything that someone you're courting or in the secular world dating should be doing, because just like we see in this follow-up sentence, you sway the perspective. So now you know, so just like with the, you know, you didn't make me no food, but did you make me your wife? So in my mind, immediately when I watched that, I'm like, well, resentment has set in, because I thought that if I did all these things and gave you favors, you know, that I would have this, which you should be expecting to be a wife. We should, you know, as women, like, you know, most of us want to be wives. And I say most of us because you do have women who are happily single. I mean, not everybody, thinks about man, woman, child, and procreating. I'm not sure why, but over
And
here,
legacy and community, and legacy and community and
right,
bloodline.
right. And so there's something amiss there, if you're not thinking about like, legacy and community, not for your own sake, but like, making sure that there are children to continue on and upholding the will of Yah, right? So I immediately was like, oh, that's resentment. But, maybe you've been moving in a way. And of course, it's a clip, so you can kind of take it out of context. But like, let's be real, like this, there's a certain reason why the clip was put on there. But immediately, like I said, I was like, well, you're resenting this person because maybe the two of you have been given gifts and favors that you shouldn't have been doing, because clearly you're not wed. You're not mated in that way. You've been shacking up probably. And then I thought, like, it's kind of like elections where you get the candidate. The candidate tells you everything you want to hear. They promise you all, and this is the other thing. They only promise the gifts and favors. Then when they get in office, it's like, I don't know. So like we have to be mindful of swaying the perspective of someone that we're courting with, a partner that we're courting with, because this is supposed to be a period of discovery that remains pure. So that's what that reminded me of. And so before, actually, I'll wait until. Do you have something to add about those two sentences, and then I'll pose the question.
For sure. So I'll work backwards. So you gave two examples primarily. One, with the with the politician, right? So you pander to your audience, or that's what they do. And then there's like a bait and switch. So I get your vote and then I do what I want to do. So how I connect that with what you just read in those first two sentences, the pander are the gifts. Mm-hmm. And so then it detracts from the courtship experience. And just to kind of go back to the beginning, the courtship experience is to do what? To get to know one another. To determine levels of compatibility, not just for you and the person you're in courtship with, but to even determine whether your families are compatible, if you recall. So that process becomes very muddied when you're exchanging gifts or taking it back to last strong, feelings of amour or amorous feelings, right? The other thing that I wanted to touch on really quickly is that first example and the two sentences reminds me of bribery. And when you spoke, Sister Deidre, about the idea of feeling, I forgot the word, the phrase you used, resentment. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what are you resenting? You're resenting that you were doing these things expecting something in return that mm-hmm. you ultimately did not receive. So mm-hmm. you were really not doing it from a place of, I really want you to have these beautiful gifts that I'm bestowing upon you, or I really want you to have this awesome meal because I thought it would be so nutritious and delicious, right? Mm-hmm. An old cartoon. I'm an old commercial, but it's really not because you thought it was nutritious and delicious, but rather because you thought it was going to curry you some favor. You thought mm-hmm. that curry was going to curry favor, but mm-hmm. it didn't. Mm-hmm. And so when it doesn't, say it again.
I said, or you thought the cookies were going to curry favor.
She said it. Oh wait, she said it.
The truth.
That's. Yeah, see, and they think you're like the sweet and wholesome one. You say all the funny things that throw me off. The cookies. I'm thinking, oh yeah, you can bake cookies.
No, I'm talking about the other cookies.
I know, I got it on the second go around. So that's why that's what you don't want to do in an authentic Anu courtship experience, right? And so while we are, and I just want to say this because I think we haven't said it in a while we are here and our brothers are here, every strong, we're speaking to everyone, but everyone can listen and hear and implement, but we're speaking to those that are Anu. And so this experience, this process that we're dissecting, right, and deliberating and examining at every level is really for us to understand the benefits of the Anu way, right? So yeah, you don't want to adulterate the process of courtship,
Right.
period.
And
And you
what
had a
is
question?
adulteration? I saying, what is adulteration?
Oh, see, I didn't hear you. I'm just agreeing. So to adulterate is to is to change and to alter in such a way that it shifts what the experience is organically supposed to be, and that's what we don't want to do. We
Right.
don't want to alter the experience. You want it to be as naturally occurring
Mm-hmm.
as it intended to be.
Yeah. I got right up in the camera. Um,
Yeah.
so the question, what gifts or favors have you given or received? And looking back, how did it shift your perspective? So I'm going to put it at the bottom of the screen so it can ticker across just in case. So now we have the question.
Okay. And while you do that, and everyone begins to put their responses in the chat, I'll read the next two lines. Okay. If you begin to function as two people who are already in union together, you will adulterate the process. For example, women should not be preparing needed meals for men, and men should not be organizing finances for the woman in question. So I defined adulterate for you already. Um, so if you go from, remember, courtship, and I'm going to keep saying it, but courtship is about creating oneness, becoming familiar, and really just getting more acclimated to a fellow Anu member. It's not about two becoming one. That's a little bit later, okay, or a lot of bit later in some instances. So when you begin to give gifts, or dare I even go back a little bit and say, share those amorous feelings, you're kind of entering into that something that you shouldn't. This is really a time of getting to know one another. So yeah, just want to stress that. And before I'll do the second sentence after. Did you want to add anything to that, please?
No. I did have something and then it went out of my head. It made me think about like long-term relationships that got stuck as long-term relationships because, but we can talk later because I feel like it also fits really well with upcoming. So I'm gonna hold it.
Okay. So that was like a cliffhanger for y'all. Just
Yes.
if you didn't stay tuned. Okay, and then for example, women should not be preparing needed meals, and the men should not organize the finances of the woman in question. So by doing these things, again, these are just examples of how you can adulterate the process. You don't want to alter the process. You don't want to change the experience. There are benefits to allowing things to happen organically. I'm going to use myself as an example. I never wanted to get caught in the rain, not for any reasons with hair or anything, cliche like that. In my younger years, it was really just because I just didn't want my experience, like my day, to be altered at all. And so I thought that the rain was screwing up my day as opposed to coming to bring me an organic experience. Then one day, more recently, in more recent years, I was just like, you know what? It's raining and you're walking. What if you don't just run to the nearest shelter or run back to your car, which is most likely the case? What if you actually enjoy this moment, enjoy this experience, see what happens? Like perhaps just take your shoes off if you don't want them to get wet, and enjoy whatever that may bring. And it was like the most fun I'd had in a while. Maybe not the most, I don't want to make my life sound like frolicking in the rain was the most fun I'd had, but it was really fun. It was like being a child again, like in that moment, not adulterating that experience and recognizing that, you know, nature was doing what nature does. And so as individuals, allow nature to do what nature does. Don't alter the process by injecting the human, right? Don't cook that food and be like, oh, if he tastes this, he don't know I'm a good wife. Well, number one, maybe he won't know if your cooking tastes that great. But number one, you may not know him well enough to know whether those are even things that he eats or,
Right.
you know, finds is best for him. So yeah, that's what I got all that from that one line.
You know, and the part about like organizing finances, I was thinking like, why would you organize finances unless it immediately affected your homestead? So if you have a homestead that you're bringing this woman into, then once she's there, it makes sense to organize the finances. This is how we're going to do things. This is how we're going to make it work for us. This is how we're going to be great. But if that person is not there yet, maybe all you should be doing is finding out you have debt, you know, those things. Remember, it's a period of discovery. And then if you are thinking that you're going to bring this person in, like you can maybe preliminary, like think about some things, but you shouldn't be organizing things if you're not bringing that person into your homestead. Here's what I remembered what I was going to say. Because if you're doing all of these things, right, and you sway the person, you're cooking all the food, you're organizing the finances as if you're going to do something, right? And so now the other person's perspective is swayed, or vice versa, you know, whether it's the man or the woman, the other person's perspective is swayed, right? But then something else happens, and one of you does not want to move forward with the courtship. But the other person is like, but I thought that when I was doing all of this, it was cool. But I did all of this. I did all of that. I cooked for you. I gave you the cookies. I did, you know, all of that. And then you're like confused and upset because you did all these things because, like you said, you were expecting something in return. It should be an organic, unadulterated experience so that you are getting the fullness and the truth of what that potential mate could be, right? Not rose-colored lollipops, rainbows, assumptions of what it could be, the trueness of what it is, because then you can better figure out how this person, like if it is the man bringing a woman in, how this person can fit within your homestead and within your household and within your vision. And if you're the woman, you get an understanding of how you will help be a helpmeet and fulfill the vision of this man. The man, sorry.
Before you shift, the one thing that I did want to qualify, since we acknowledge that we're speaking to those in Anu, when you reference those lovely cookies, well, perhaps lovely cookies, I felt the need to, I felt the need to reiterate that sex is marriage. So if in a courtship, you're giving, as my cousin used to say, you're tossing out the cookies like a frisbee, and you skip through the rest of the courtship experience and you go straight to betrothal and marriage. So I wanted to put a plug in for something we already read. Oh, yes.
Check it out.
Do we want to check the chat? I see a little bit.
Yes, we can. So peace to everyone else that has come in since we started. So peace, Sister Sherla. I think that's it. Just you. So Brother Cruz says bribery and romance are brothers. I don't know what that was. Maybe he was talking about when we were talking about those things.
We were talking about the bribery, like using.
I see.
Yeah.
Different mothers. I knew people from heaven. Brother Cruz says gifts. So he has given gifts. So many. I was taken advantage of. I would buy lunches and dinners for someone in the past for months. She seemed to have gotten offended when I asked her to cook for me. See?
So there you go. So you were giving it thinking that eventually she would think that reciprocating was appropriate, and
Mm-hmm.
she in fact did not. But I'm sure she was happy to have the food. So,
And I
yeah.
would say here's why any courting should be done within your own community, because you're upholding the same value system and the same culture.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Des says it makes it more difficult to pump the brakes on a relationship that you realize you don't actually want to be in. Yeah, I guess for some, I know some people who are like, deuces, but someone always gets hurt. I will say that. Yeah, I think it depends on the person. Like
Mhm.
some people, it does make it hard to pump the brakes. While maybe for the other half, it's like I'm done.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's where like bribery, right? So that's the opposite of, well, in my mind, that's the opposite of bribery. That's where you feel guilty
Hmm.
because you've accepted said
Yeah.
gifts or favor, but you knew you had no intention. But now that you've accepted,
Hmm.
you're like, well, I can't go now. But you know what? I think you made a really good point, Sister Deidre. That's all antithetical to nation thing and the Anu experience. So again, yeah, while we are kind of sharing from our past, it's important to recognize, the folly in continuing to live that cycle.
Hmm.
So,
So now
yeah.
I'll actually get like the long-term relationship thing. Like, so to your point, Des, that is how you get into that long-term relationship that just stayed a long-term relationship because it made it difficult to pump the brakes, right? So yes, I want to make sure I wasn't disagreeing. I was saying like for some people, it makes it they experience that, and others are like, all right, dudes, I'll see you later and have a nice life. But that long-term relationship that never goes anywhere, or they end up getting married and then divorced. But let's be clear, like this is because like there's not necessarily the following of the structure of an Anu courtship. So some of this, yes, we're pulling from past experiences and what we know to be true in the secular world. So keep those answers
Mhm.
coming.
Yes.
Questions on the chat, on the ticker. So we're going into the daily agenda. So have a daily agenda. The daily outline should be decreed by the man in the courtship. So this goes back to 2 Shemas ago when we spoke about the check-in. So that's what I thought about immediately when I looked at like the outline. So when you're thinking outline, because I'm wondering, like some people are like outline, like what are you talking about outline? So when you're having a check-in, it's really important that you have a standard process of how you do it. Because remember, we're talking about a courtship that's, there's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, like really thinking about like what that looks like. And that's really driven by the man. So in order to make sure that we drive that, which we'll get into next, precious, an outline gives some structure. So think about I had the example about like the meeting, but I'm wondering if I should wait and we give that after.
That's your call. You can leave them
I know.
hanging.
So think about when you're in meetings. Think about when you're in meetings. So I'm a cliffhanger. Hang on the cliff a little bit. So we're gonna move
Okay.
to the next one. So yeah, so making sure that outline is there, and that really kind of takes us back to the check-in. So what does that check-in look like? What is the outline for that check-in? Whether it's a written check-in that you send like digitally, like through email or a chat or a message, or whether it's on the phone, what is the structure of that conversation? Do you have something clearly outlined so it is very clear for the woman how she is going to function within the courtship, because it also gives an idea of what the vision is and how I need to function within this homestead.
When you mentioned having the agenda for you for every meeting or encounter and conversation, it took me back to another Shema discussion where we went through, I believe the brothers went through the time. limitations, right? That the courtship communication and the daily check-ins, oh, actually, maybe perhaps it was us, that it starts at 15 minutes, but pairs back to 5. So we spoke about efficiency and a level of commitment, right, to that process, to that experience on a day-to-day basis. And I know at that time, many of you might have wondered, well, how do you get to 5-minute conversations? There is an agenda. There is a focused thrust to, and a set kind of, a set series of topics that are to be discussed and explored. So the other thing that I wanted to touch on is the fact that the man, right? So it says the daily outline should be decreed by the man in the courtship. Why? Because the man is receiving guidance. It takes me back to the hierarchy where it is the Elohim, the man, and there are some other steps, but then there's the woman. So the man is setting the agenda because an Anu man is receiving guidance from the Most High Creator, right? We have our relationship with the Most High Creator, but we are the body, the man is the head. And so with that, it's imperative that he knows his role and that he guides the courtship experience. And I'm going to leave it there. Yes. Okay. So should I read on and then you're going to hit him with the good agenda story, or should I? We should probably do the agenda now.
Okay. So I have a story. So, what?
You tell me.
No, after.
We're going to hit the train.
After.
So the man is the conductor of the courtship experience, right? If a man cannot properly schedule and organize a courtship, he is unfit to head a household. With an agenda, the communication will be focused on. So take it away.
So think about those times when you're in a meeting and you don't have no agenda. Everybody just sitting there looking at each other. Well, what are we talking about? Somebody's falling asleep. Somebody might be knitting. You just don't even know what's happening. One time, I had a meeting with my staff, and I didn't have an agenda. At least it wasn't nothing official. I honestly was reading from something like this, and everything was like, yeah. So what's next? And you could feel that it was like almost directionless. So somebody said, okay, well, next time we have a meeting, can we have like an agenda so we can like follow along and da-da-da-da? Because then people can kind of feel like they're part of the process of what's happening. So if the lead, and when we're talking about courtship, if the man does not lead with the agenda and is able to organize, saying this is what's happening, enumerate, boom, 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 and like give that and say, in a way that's like manageable, and it's like, this is my vision and this is what I want, then remember, we're water. Where's that water gonna go? All over the place. It's direction.
Everywhere. Make a mess.
Directionless. It's gonna be like ocean spray everywhere. So that's the reason, like, why the agenda is important. Like, just you can even think like I said, like thinking about like if those of you who are still like in 9 to 5s, or even as an entrepreneur, if you don't have like planned, enumerated steps, you go all over the place. Even for like the day, if I don't plan things out, it's all over the place. It's like, did I finish this? Did I finish that? And then I find myself having to like go back to like, this is why check-ins are really good, because then you can go back, okay, I was going to do this, and this, so.
Yeah, I think I can relate to the agenda example scenario, the meeting scenario. And I'm going to focus more on the idea of the conductor, right? And Sister Deidre, what is conductor? What was the other version that you came
the driver, and
no, the driver, but there was another language like that.
Conducir is in Spanish. Conducir, it means to drive. It's the driver. Boom, boom.
So what does the driver do? So the conductor of the train gets you from point A to point B. The conductor steers and guides. You can set your watch to an efficient conductor, based on their schedule. You know that you'll get to your destination on time. Think about the courtship experience and think about if you do not have an agenda, what will you have? Similar to what Sister Deidre described in the missing agenda scenario. What you will have is aimlessness. What you will have is wasted time, unfocused dialogue and experiences. And dare I even say droning on, right? There are some that just, if you don't have kind of a focus, we just go. Like, imagine if we didn't have some semblance of a framework, we can just sit here talking to one another. And I guess we'll get a clue when all of y'all disappear, but we could just drone on without something that kind of guides the discussion. And so the idea of the relationship between the conductor and having an agenda and the courtship experience, our new style, as I like to call it, is really about that man standing fully in his role and authority to guide that process.
Right. So that concludes communication under courtship. Us disappearing. Right. Yeah. Then we get a clue and nobody's there. Kind of like Bueller.
Right.
Bueller. And everybody's just dead faced,
Absolutely.
So being able to drive that train. And I think like I had thought of like the example of a train, and I was like, well, they call the people that take the tickets conductors now, and the person that drives the train is the engineer. Listen, in the little books when we were learning about trains, boats, planes, trains, and automobiles and stuff, the person in the front driving the train was the conductor. Conduct means to drive. That's the lead. So that's
Or even to, to kind of just use wordplay a little bit, right? Sometimes we get so stuck on how we know a word and or how we use a word, but conduct, right? To conduct, to me, connects with conduct. And conduct is about how you, like your behavior, like how you're performing. So to kind of guide the performance, right? Or even the conductor in an orchestra, right?
Yes.
So it's like they're conducting an experience. They're a facilitator of an experience. Right. And without that person whose back is to the audience, so they're solely focused on their target. So if you are the woman and you're the target, then you're getting all of the attention. You're getting that guidance. You're getting that vision. And again, where is it coming from? It's coming from the Most High. Back turned to everything else that's behind him, because his focus is
right here,
precisely on the courtship experience,
on the woodwinds, on the brass, on the percussion, on the pit. I told you I was in March band. That story.
Oh, see, I didn't even know what she was talking about.
Right, I said I got stories. When you see, they're not just going like this. When music has counts and all of these movements, they actually mean something. Like at least in March band, this is 1. This is 2, this is 3, this is 4. You can't see all my hands, but it keeps the time. Remember, we talked about time. It keeps the beat. And without that person keeping the band on beat, you got jacked up music. You need that person to drive so that what the tone is in the tune, it sounds the way it's supposed to sound. And that means the conductor has to also know their craft. They have to be able to read music. They have to know that time in their head. And so when we talk about that the man being the one driving the daily agenda, and if they're unable to properly schedule and organize a courtship, then they're unfit to head a household. Same example can be used with the band. If they are unable to read music, be able to keep the time in their head, know what each section is supposed to be doing, then they're unfit to lead the band. They're unfit to be a conductor. So, being the conductor.
Yeah, I think that was really great. Taking it back to, the fitness, right, of the conductor. Because again, courtship is not synonymous with marriage, dating, union. We booed up now. We are becoming two. It isn't any of that. And so within this, what you'll find within these words that we're going through within the Anu way, what you'll find is guidance. So, sisters, if there was also a clue. I call them clues. They're like breadcrumbs left for us to help us discern. If you're in a courtship and the person you're in courtship with is inconsistent, or I believe the statement is they'll grow fatigued or even annoyed by or resentful about having a daily check-in, whether it is on the woman's side who is is checking in, or perhaps the brother being doing the courting is not responsive. It also states that then perhaps you are unfit for courtship, right? So again, here we are again with another clue. So I'm just going to highlight them a bit. If a man cannot properly schedule and organize a courtship, he is unfit to head a household. So going back to your example of we dating and it's been 18 years, you probably discerned very early on that he was not fit to be a mate or a husband, yet you maybe accepted those gifts and then got stuck in that situation. So it's just important that we learn from these experiences and that we really live in what we know now. I think that's really powerful. And I see something from Sovereign Eats and a few others in that. So yes, keep it coming.
Yeah. So I'll start with Brother Antonio. He says, I have received compliments about being well behaved or nice when I was younger. Without fail, these people began to slowly ask me for favors because you was nice and well.
Oh, that's not nice.
That isn't nice. That's usury.
That is usury.
Brother Chris said, conductor also similar to electricity. Yes.
I thought that. Yes, I thought that too.
Yeah. Which speaks to a manipulation or custodian of energy. The emotion.
See, I couldn't connect it, so give thanks, Brother Chris, because I'm like, okay, conductor would also think of like electricity, but that's as much as I knew about electricity.
I guess we should learn.
Plug it in, it works.
The last Shema we had, I think all my inadequacies were pointed out, so maybe we should learn.
Yes.
I'll be.
Well, I got carpentry down. I said I'm gonna,
Next
I'm
time
gonna be learning how to.
My helmet with the protective, and maybe I'll solder something.
Okay. Okay. I'm thinking Bob the Builder, but I need to change the name to make it more appropriate to me. But I'm like Precious. I'm gonna come up with something by next Shema and Two Strongs. I'm gonna have my carpenter name for you all.
Because I want to do the carpentry too. I want to do that. So maybe, yes, I do.
I'll build something.
Or I don't know, maybe. I also saw something going around the internet where a woman was doing masonry. And I was like, why don't I know how to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like
literally was fixing like a stone wall with the concrete and the cement. And it was like really not like, and when we talk about nation building, people need to have those skills. Or if you have to bug out somewhere, you need to be able to have those skills. So moving to some place that is like more wild, right? And rural and less urban and plush and posh than we're used to, you need to have skills. So that was just.
And I'm gonna get more proficient with this chat. So yeah, I'm gonna help you. Y'all just see me squinting. Don't make fun. Don't make fun.
Okay. I can keep going.
No, I got it. Okay. It shifted my perspective about compliments and gifts, and it makes me suspicious of the other person whenever I receive them. So Give thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna acknowledge that this is in present tense, but I want to hope, just for clarity's sake, I want to I know that it would be not within righteous community, right? That you would feel this way. So that speaks to the importance of surrounding yourself with your Aalites, because then you know that their intentions are your intentions, because we stand on the same foundation. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's important. Ooh, Sovereign needs, she gonna have something good. So is it safe? Okay. So is it safe to the connection to the way? Oh, what? Is it safe to the connection to the way the man's direction aids in sustaining or fulfilling harmony and unity within the courtship, and thus eventually the family and the larger community? I guess so. Is it safe to say? Okay, so is it safe to say the connection, okay, to the way the man directs and aids in the sustaining and fulfilling of harmony and unity within the courtship, and thus eventually the family? Absolutely, I would think so. That there is a similar connection. That's what I think.
Because
Oh,
the
precision. She gave me my carpentry name. Now, when I start my cabinet making business, y'all better patronize me now. Don't tell me they leaning.
can I get
This-
one, please? Anyway, no, I'm just joking. You know what? Yes, because the family is a microcosm of the community, right? So if you can't run a courtship, then how are you going to run a family? And let's say you somehow, like, by the skin of your teeth, make it past the courtship, and now you have a family. But then what's happening within that family? Remember, we talked about, what when we're talking about like the righteous community, like what is being poured in to
Mhm.
from the man and then down to the children. If you're unable to, move in that way where you can give like instruction, direction, that fits a vision, if you have one, um,
Yeah.
then what's being poured into that family? And then how is that family um, unified within itself and then able to harmonize with everyone outside of their intimate unit,
Yeah. And I think too, the idea of the chat move, let me see. The idea of sustaining, right? Sustaining or fulfilling. Before it even gets to that point, the man is setting and establishing, right? Through the courtship experience, you are getting a glimpse at what he is able to establish that will then be sustained, that looks like harmony and unity between the two of you. Because first, is he harmonious within himself? Does he have a harmonious and unified connection to the creator, to his family, to his community, before you even enter into it? And then from there, you can then make appropriate assumptions. So yeah, I think it's very nuanced, sovereign needs, and it starts right there. Does he have those things within himself?
Mm-hmm.
Because you should be able to see that. Des asks, does the woman do the checking in or the man? So absolutely, good question. Yes, it is the woman who checks in, who reports out, who says, greetings, good dawning, based on the format and structure that you're provided with. This is what happened yesterday, or this is what went on with me yesterday. This is what I'm doing today. These are the things I may need your guidance on, or whatever, however your structure is established, but you are you are the one, well, how did you put it? We are the check.
The techie.
We are the keys. We're being, but we're being checked in on, but we're reporting out. Like, so it's a little, I can see where it can be tricky. So no, they're not saying what you doing today. Where you at? But
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, but really there shouldn't be a question, because you should be very open, which is something else that was touched on very early on in courtship. You shouldn't find this process to be an intrusion into your personal life or your personal space, because ultimately, if there is an appropriate connection, everything should be that this is about, what is it, bringing it to court and putting everything out there, right? Producing all of the evidence. So yeah, thank you for the question.
Good question.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, no worries. Just sovereign needs. Yeah, I mean, your thumbs challenged my ability to like read the little small fine font. So give thanks. We worked it out. And Brother Antonio says yes. Okay. Anything offered has an originating intent, so I am more cognizant of where gifts and compliments are coming from. Yeah, chief segments on praise as a war tactic helps me with this concept a lot. Good. Yeah, we have so many tools to draw from to kind of shift our perspective, or to more keenly attune ourselves to what's going on around us. So that's a good thing that we have, that you all have. I'm done. We're reading this chat.
Yes, Checker.
In the words of Brother Lowe, I'm done.
Brother Cruz says, in most cases, a relationship outside of righteousness usually is based on what is the max that we can get out of each other without feeling like we are being vampires. But in reality, we probably are being vampires.
That makes me think of cross-cultural unions and in solutions for dysfunctional family at the very, very, very beginning. It goes quite extensively, and dare I say explicitly, into the folly of cross-cultural union, because we're each jockeying, our culture is jockeying for that head position. And so in that, you may not think that you're being vampirical, but you are, because ultimately, well, or maybe even less of a vampire and more of, well, yeah, because a vampire actually converts you, right? So you start out as a human, but then a vampire turns you into it. And so with that, that's what happens in a cross-cultural union, right? So I think that, yeah, that's spot on, Brother Abba Cruz. Give thanks for that.
Des says, okay, I mean, is there a specification of who is
Yes.
who? Yes. You check in with the man. Yes. You.
One more time. One more again. Who does what?
We check in with the man and checky. Or you are the checker.
When do you do that? You do that at like 6 o'clock, like when you feel like it. When do you check in?
Well, it's set by the the man. He's the conductor,
Right.
the conductor.
There you go.
He's driving.
There you go.
He's the one driving.
And I know. Yes, and I know in Anu, it has been shared that there is actually, I know we discussed it during the some of the builds in Anu prior to the recruitment, well, during the recruitment phase, and we actually touched on this. And what we shared is that there is a covering initiative within Anu, and within that initiative, I'll share that within my covering expects a check-in before 11 a.m. So that's the standard that I work, the confines that I work within. So I'll just share that to help you, get some context to what happens. Oh no, we're happy to offer the.
Oh, great! Yay! Thanks. We're glad. We're gonna get the shirt. Checkies. Get t-shirts made.
Checker. That can be the like Anu Courtship t-shirts, right? Checky, checker. So
Checker.
Check in, no messaging. First communication should be a natural one. Check in, no messaging. First communicate. Okay. So there's another there's a, that's Abba Cruz's feedback. Yes. And
right.
what he's actually citing from the Anu way.
Yeah, because this is impersonal.
Yeah.
At the same time, again, the man is driving though. So if there's a shift at some point for whatever reason, and it's like, okay, well, I'm doing this, I'm gonna need you to send your check-ins this way.
Right. Yeah. Then that's
But this medium can be very impersonal.
Yes.
From how a lot of people don't know how to communicate, and communication is what we're talking about. They don't know how to communicate because it's too much of this. So then when it comes to social skills, they're non-existent. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. And you're like, huh? What?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hi, Nini 144. Greetings and welcome. Great discussion. I like that vampirism has been addressed. Mm-hmm. Suck the life out of you. Mm-hmm.
All the time. But not only, sucks the life out of you and changes you forever, right? Because I mean, before this era of zombies, right? It was vampires. That's what happened, and you're forever changed. You know, if you don't take anything away from that kind of experience, they changed the name, but it's the same. It's the same idea. I'll leave that there. Yes. I'll just say I thought vampires at least were a bit more, appealing than zombies. But I guess for this era, the zombie is just like, no, run for your life, right? Like they kind of lived forever, but they just kind of were frozen in time. I don't know with the zombies. But see, I don't even get into those kind of movies. So yeah, I'm sure you would have a lot more to say. I know, I see you. I see you over there. I'm not well versed. I just remember like vampires look super cool, and they were only out at night, and there's lots of mystique around them. Zombies? Girl, please. No. But let's not, I don't want to go too far off topic.
Brother Chris has a question. In what ways do you think your life journey would look different if you had the opportunity to live out this wisdom when you were younger?
I can go on for like a day.
Right. Well, I would like. At first I thought like really young, and I'm like, well, then my parents would have to be. But I guess if I was younger, like, and maybe 20s, right? When you're no longer, when you're starting to make your own decisions, because we come from the secular place. It is what it is. Yeah, a lot would be different. I probably would. I don't know, like. I think I would. What?
I'm like, me. I got it. No, go ahead.
I probably would have been mated a lot earlier. That's for sure. And started family a lot earlier. So, and be more entrepreneurial, because I would have had that time to build that up and not been so
brainwashed.
They cemented, but it kind of is like, is there anything that loosens up cement? Nothing. A sledgehammer. Because right now I got to use the sledgehammer to pull me away from the secular world. Like, there are things that you can learn and utilize to help build up your community. But I probably would have done that earlier.
Yeah. I think in short, everything about my walk would have been so different. My priorities I would say the biggest shift would have been putting family over career. I think that the idea of prioritizing going to, like, I would have still chosen to prioritize going to college, but I think the mission and thrust behind why I was going to college would have shifted. Perhaps even my major would have shifted to be things that are more in alignment with what being a mother, a woman, an appropriate helpmeet to a nation builder looks like. What does that woman look like? What does the queen look like? And how does she support her king, who's then supporting the kingdom, right? Who's headed up by Yah. What does that all look like, and how do I function within that? So the prep would have been different, so that when I got there, I would have been like, she ready? Instead of, I got to learn all these things. Okay, how do you do that? So give thanks for the question.
Oh my goodness. You're right.
I gotta read up. Gotta go study now. And it
everything else,
creates space. Yeah, yeah,
you know what? Like when you talk about like the choices and like major, like so I had initially started out as pre-med because I wanted to be a doctor and deliver babies. Um, Clearly that's not what I'm doing right now. I'm still in the healthcare realm because it was like, well, I want to do something that is in the service of people and making people better. And I think had I been introduced and had this wisdom when I was younger, I probably would have done midwifery instead, because that it would be, more in alignment with, what can be done in a household or in the community as a woman. Not to say that being a doctor isn't cool, but I would have probably chosen midwifery. So, and would have been
and actually, oh, go
doing,
ahead. I apologize.
huh?
I want to just bounce that question back to the collective, and specifically to you, Aki, Chris. How would it shift you? How do you see that wisdom applied now, if it would have been applied? Well, the wisdom manifested now, if it would have been applied earlier. I'd love to hear your response. And give thanks, Robert Cruz. I see the Blackula. Not so much Black. Well,
Vampire in Brooklyn.
I did like, but of course, I mean,
Evil is good.
from Brooklyn. So of course, and give thanks, South to Arlene. I agree, Emma Precious. I believe my whole outlook on life would be different. Indeed, because our outlook on life is different right now. So it is definitely safe to assume that, if we would have come into this understanding sooner, it would shift our lens. But the good thing is we're here now, and there are many who, in fact, are not. And there are also some that have come into it and have turned their back on it. So we're going to celebrate where we are, and recognize that we're on that chain, right? And it doesn't matter where you are as far as those rungs. You're not looking back. You're looking ahead or up, right? It's just about the ascension. So, good thanks.
Yeah.
So perhaps we can keep it like going in the chat. I know I threw a question back out there, but we are approaching 1 hour, and so this is always good. Whether I'm actively listening and participating in the chat when the brothers are speaking, or when we get together and cut up on here, I find it with you all. I enjoy it. So perhaps you can answer the question that Aki Chris posed in the chat. Until next time.
Yes. Oh wait, you want them to answer it now or in the comments?
Until next time. In the comments, did I say the chat? See,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be
Oh,
closing. I shouldn't be
I was
closing.
like,
I don't mean to. I meant we're leaving. It's an hour. Get back later.
Right. We'll answer after the beep. So, right, until next time. Right, the comment section. And as always, we will get to them as soon as we are able. If you're catching this live after, please feel free to comment on anything that you found helpful. For more information about Anu, you can go to www.anulifeglobal.org. There you can also find out about a lot of the ministries that we have, the things that we do, like Red Wrap. You can, and also Shema. You can also find links to where to download the free copy of the Anu Way or any of the other books that are available for purchase written by Chief Yuya. So there's Noir Male, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family, 14 Keys, The Compass, Mind, Heart, Words, and Grasping the Roots of Divine Power. So with that, give thanks for everyone. Give thanks for sharing the space and time with us. As always, every Friday, either with the brothers or with us. And we will everyone a peaceful segue into your Shabbat. So, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Peace.